All right, so welcome back. We're on lesson 2 and we're looking at double bar graphs. Okay, so when we're looking at these two bar graphs, I have two separate bar graphs here. They're both looking at population, but they're looking at different things within the population growth of Canada. So this first one up here is looking at the natural population growth, which means it's the number of births minus the number of deaths. Okay, and here we're looking at immigration. So it's the difference between the number of people coming into Canada, so immigrating, and the number of people who are leaving Canada, so they're emigrating. All right, when we're comparing these, well, there's a couple things that we really need to make sure we're aware of. So the first thing that I want to point out is when we're comparing these is the scale on this side is different. Okay, the range here between the years is exactly the same, but the scale is a little different on both of those. So that's the first thing that I wanted to point out. Everything else is fine. Okay, so the original graphs have the same units on each scale, so they're done in thousands, another thing that we need to change. But if I was going to compare these two graphs, sometimes it's better if we put them onto one bar graph. So that's called a double bar graph. So which scale should you choose for that new bar graph? Well, I would choose the larger scale for the graph, and this is what it would look like. So what does a double bar graph have that the two others don't have? So look at these two here and then have a look over at this new bar graph and tell me what it has that the other one doesn't. Okay, so up here it has a legend that has different colors to show you what you're looking at. So this one here that I just circled be growth from immigration, and then the darker color here is going to be the natural growth. So it makes it easy if I want to look and compare between these 2 years. Okay, so during which 5-year period was the largest natural growth in the population in Canada? So if I'm going to look at that, I'm looking at the light colored, right? And I can go across and I can look and I very easily see that it's there. And the smallest, I can look across and I can see that it's there. Now, which period was there the largest difference between the immigration and the emigration? So the periods where there's the biggest difference between immigration and emigration, so I would look at what the tallest one is here for the immigration and the smallest one here. Now, is this the best bar graph for comparing things like that? Absolutely not. Okay, we would go back to these charts over here for that purpose. But what this is good for, I'm going to delete these now so that it's easier to see. Okay, so what this is good for is when we're comparing the growth of from immigration directly to the natural growth. So if I was going to do that, what I'm going to ask you is how can you find the value of total growth in the years 1966 to 1971? So I can look here and I can add those together and I can provide you with that answer, right? Then in which period was the total growth of the population the largest? So now I need to be able to compare really quickly. Well, that's too big. Obviously, these ones are bigger than any other ones, and if I stack them on top of each other, that would be where the largest growth would be. Now, which components affected the total growth more in the first 20 years? Shown on the graph. So if I look here, from 1966, I'm going to 76, that's 10 years, and we're going to go all the way to 1986. So if I'm going to compare what had the biggest impact on the growth of Canada, was it natural growth or was it growth from immigration, I can compare those directly and I can see very quickly that it's natural growth. Okay, but when I'm looking on what happened in the last 5 years of our chart here, when we're comparing the two, right, the natural growth, it looks like it's slowly declining. And then we can look at that trend and where it started. So here it looks about even, and then all of a sudden it starts to decline. Immigration rates are likely to grow or stay around the same. So like you're looking, they're either down here, there wasn't very many people coming at the time, but here it's really staying close to the same. And it's slightly increasing here at the end. Now, one thing I do want to point out is the immigrations are likely to keep growing, but the decrease in the natural growth and the growing demand for more skilled workers in parts of Canada is helping to fuel the increase of that immigration rate. All right, so you do have some questions on your worksheet there, so make sure that you're doing those, and if you need any help, please do ask.